Hello to all my dear followers. I want to welcome you to a new fanfic for the channel. I want to welcome you to What If Naruto Mastered All of Minato's JUTSUS. We will upload this fanfic in episodes every week. Always remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and without further ado, enjoy.
Namikaze Minato, a man known by the moniker of Yellow Flash, was the fastest shinobi to ever live. His skills in taijutsu, ninjutsu were good, but he was a master in fuinjutsu and one of its most rarely studied branches of space-time ninjutsu. He invented the two most feared jutsus in the history of the elemental nations, which he used in the Third Great Shinobi War against a battalion of over 1,000 IWA shinobi and came out victorious. This was the major turning point of the Third Great Shinobi War. These two jutsus were which came to be known as the Hiruzen no Jutsu and the Rasengan. Minato was considered an orphan when he was found at the village gates, but he was forced to hide his heritage because of the animosity he would have garnered with the truth. His father, the once great leader of the Uchiha clan Madara Uchiha, survived his last battle with Hashirama Senju, the Shodame Hokage and wielder of Mokuton. Madara Uchiha, after the battle at the Valley of the End, started going away from Konoha with grave injuries. He walked through the forests for hours and was on the verge of dying from his wounds when he was found by a young woman with blonde hair and blue sapphire eyes. She took him to his home and tended to his injuries. Madara woke up after 3 days still gravely injured and looked around to find himself in a room on a bed and bandages wrapped around his torso and arms. He attempted to get out of his bed, but a loud groan escaped his lips. The door suddenly opened and the same woman he last caught a glimpse of in the forest came in and started checking on his wounds. Flashback. At first sight, Madara had to say she was a beautiful woman with sunshine blonde hair, sapphire blue eyes that had deep emotions and a playful mischief in them. She was wearing a simple pink kimono that hung to her curves, and she walked with a grace that Madara noticed could be found only in kunoichi of noble clans. As he came back to his senses, he asked the woman, "Where am I?" To which the woman replied, "You were very injured when I found you, so I brought you here to tend to your injuries." "Thank you. May I ask, who are you?" asked Madara. To which she replied, "My name is Mia Namikaze, may I know yours?" Madara nodded, replied Madara Uchiha, former leader of the Uchiha clan. "I lost the fight versus my best friend and was forced to flee in the condition you found me. I thank you for helping me, because I would surely have been dead had you not rescued me." Mia nodded in acceptance and began to check on his bandages. After finishing on his bandages, she gave him some food, a few medicines, and left him to rest. After a month of recuperation, Madara noticed that his injuries were much too great and he shall never be at the level he once was. He continued to stay at the woman's house and found out that she was of the Namikaze clan, a small clan back during the Warring Clans era, and left when she was quite young due to not liking the violence which he knew all too well about. She had a kind and gentle nature and had some training in the shinobi arts. Many months passed and Madara was tired of the fighting and noted that he no longer had anything to fight for after the betrayal of his clan. He fell in love with the woman that had saved him all those months ago. He married her after 5 years and had a child. The child was named Minato Namikaze. He did not add his surname so as to protect the boy from his father's reputation. 3 years later, the child was started training in the shinobi arts and at age 6 activated the Sharingan, the birthright of the Uchiha clan. Somehow Kumogakure caught whiff of Madara's survival and his family. The Sandame Raikage sent 5 ANBU squads to kill the man and retrieve his son to obtain the Sharingan for Kumo. They ambushed the house while Madara was out and his wife died trying to protect her son, and Madara arrived at home in her last moments and a battle ensued with an enraged Madara. He kicked the 2 Kumo shinobi out of the house and engaged them in battle. Though crippled, he was still a fearsome shinobi. The rest fired long-range lightning attacks which were dodged. Madara started going through lightning fast hand seals and yelled, "Fire style, great fire annihilation." A narrow stram of fire erupted from his mouth and suddenly spread into a giant wall of inferno. 2 squads were charred immediately while the rest narrowly dodged. A shinobi suddenly came behind Madara and swiped his sword, which grazed Madara. Madara narrowed his eyes at the sword and noticed it was poisoned. He engaged him with a kunai which was infused with wind chakra and cut right through the Kumo shinobi's sword and ripped his arm off. The rest went through hand seals and yelled lightning style, gale lightning. Lightning bolts launched out of the Kumo shinobi's hands and towards Madara. With no way to dodge, Madara's Sharingan started spinning dangerously and began changing shape. Suddenly ethereal skeleton bones started forming around Madara and a purple being formed around him as Madara yelled Susanoo. The attacks collided and a huge blast was formed. When the smoke cleared, Madara was on his knees panting, the Susanoo still standing strong. Madara realized that he won't last long if the battle continued longer and needed to finish it in a single blow. He pushed more chakra into the Susanoo and the Susanoo started forming 4 hands and a skull, over all of which an armor formed. The hands pulled out the swords over which Madara concentrated his Sharingan and the black flames of Amaterasu consumed them. He swiped the sword over the Kumo shinobi. 4 shinobi were sliced in half while the rest were consumed by the flames. As the battle ended, Madara coughed up blood and started to walk towards his house. In the house he saw that his wife was sitting against the wall in a pool of blood. He knelt down beside her as tears escaped his eyes. His wife smiled softly at him and laid a hand on his cheek. He kissed her one last time as she told him to take care of their son and told him she loved him as the last breaths escaped her lips and she closed her eyes. He screamed in agony and cried, asking the gods why. Why did he have to lose his brother for the clan, only to be betrayed by his clan, and now the only girl he ever loved died? Why? He thought about fighting on and getting revenge, but immediately stopped that chain of thought and decided to look for his son. Then he put his 2 fingers on the ground and expanded his sensory abilities and found his son to be in the back house used for storage. He slid the door open and walked in, and he saw his son curled up in a ball sobbing. He walked towards him and embraced his son in a hug as he sobbed uncontrollably. He picked him up and walked into his as his son fell asleep in his arms. He put him to bed and started writing a letter. The letter was addressed to his friend Tobirama Senju and explained to him the whole situation. Madara knew that Tobirama was an intelligent and unbiased individual and won't hesitate to help his son. After half an hour he finished it and rolled up the scroll. In another scroll he started sealing some money, clothes, basic ninja tools such as kunai, shuriken and ninja wire, and the various jutsu scrolls he possessed. As he finished, his son walked in and Madara told him to get ready to leave. Both father and son, after burying their wife/mother, started jumping through the trees towards Konohagakure no Sato. As the village came into sight, Madara stopped and so did his son. He handed down the 2 scrolls to his son, who looked at him confusedly. He took a deep breath and sighed, knowing this won't be easy. He started, "Son, you have to go to the village alone, and from here on out I will not be with you from here on, because my shadow will always keep you in danger and my enemies will not stop to harm you if you stay with me any longer. Therefore from here on you will have to live alone. Go and become a great shinobi worthy of your predecessors, make them, me and your mother proud." By the end his son had tears in his eyes and leapt in his father's arms as he told him he won't leave. After some persuading he nodded as he told him he would come and meet him after he has grown strong and test him. He nodded and told him the next time he met him he would beat him to the ground, to which his father chuckled and told him he had no doubt, and ruffled the boy's hair. He told his son to give the letter to Tobirama Senju and that it would explain him everything and to never tell anyone who his father was. He watched as his son walked through the gates of the village as a tear escaped his eye, and he said to no one in particular, "Sorry my son, but with my injuries I won't last long and won't be able to meet you again. Forgive me." Time skip, to the day of Kyuubi's attack. Minato Namikaze and his wife were going to have some new additions to their family. Minato was ecstatic that he was going to be a father to 3 children at once, 2 daughters and a son. Oh, how he wanted to train his son to be a shinobi so that he could make his old man proud, and Minato already knew that Kushina always wished for a daughter. The seal on Kushina had held up pretty well, and just before birth, Minato had rechecked and strengthened it again just to be sure. Suddenly, a nurse came out from the OT and told him that everything had gone perfectly well, and that the children along with their mother were perfectly safe. Minato had heaved a deep sigh of relief at the last part. Minato had immediately rushed in, and a wide smile had broken across his face when he had seen an exhausted Kushina laying on the bed holding 3 precious children in her arms. He had gingerly taken the 2 identical-looking daughters from her arms, and had observed that the girls had retained their mother's red hair and violet eyes. Minato had handed them back to Kushina after a moment's deliberation, and he had went on to take his son into his arms, smiling ear to ear. Minato's son had inherited his strong Namikaze genes, and the boy looked just like his father. The baby boy had inherited his father's spiky blonde hair and sapphire blue eyes as well, and had 3 whisker marks on each of his cheeks to boot. His son was going to be a lady killer and have a fan club, Minato mused giddily. Kushina had already told him that she was going to name her daughters Narumi and Mito, and Minato had already told her that he was going to name his son Naruto, and for once the bickering couple had mutually agreed with one another. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a masked man warped into the room through a vortex, and launched a hail of kunai at Minato. Minato instinctively jumped back, and slickly dodged the kunai while the masked man went on to take advantage of his position to speak a select few words before warping Kushina and himself through the vortex again. "Fourth Hokage, I will be taking the Jinchuriki from here, and you should act fast lest see your daughters become a little." He paused for a moment's deliberation. "Crisp." The masked fellow added with a childlike chuckle, and disappeared along with Kushina. Minato wondered for a moment if he was even sane or what he meant, but took one look in the crib of his daughters to see them wrapped in a blanket with exploding tags and his thoughts dried out pretty quickly. He picked up his children and used his Hirashin no Jutsu to teleport out just in time as the room in the hospital exploded behind his back. Minato sat on his knees in silent contemplation. His eyes tracked a dry leaf fall down from a tree, and his arms cradled the snoring infants to his chest. Not a moment later, he disappeared into thin air before the leaf could make contact with the ground. Minato brought his children back to his house, and put them on the bed. He took 2 of his 3-pronged kunai with him from the table, and again used the Hirashin marker on Kushina's seal and teleported to where she was. As he came to the clearing, he dreadfully saw that the Kyuubi had been freed and that, thanks to the gods above, Kushina had somehow managed to survive the extraction. But that was all he could thank them for, as she was just about to be pierced by its claw. He picked her up bridal style, and teleported to a nearby marker, thereby escaping the attack. The masked man laughed once again in that insane, childlike manner. "You're just as fast as your name suggests, aren't you? Just like the stories say, Yellow Flash." He chuckled, and Minato turned to him to give him an icy gaze. That of a reaper. A veteran shinobi. An army killer. A gaze of a legend. The masked man had shivers running down his spine seeing his icy sapphire blue eyes and the confidence, experience and determination those eyes held. Minato, though, said nothing, and teleported back to the house where he laid Kushina down beside the triplets and stepped back. His eyes glazed over what he would have to do, and how he wouldn't be able to see his children grow up. If only Kushina wasn't injured or Jiraiya was in the village, they could have subdued the Biju and gone on re-seal it without any loss of life. But now, there was only one seal that would be able to subdue as well as seal the Biju, but he had to turn his own children into Jinchuriki and condone the worst taboo right unto his children. Her eyes looked at him grimly. "What are you going to do now, Minato?" whispered Kushina, already dreading his answer. "I will have to split the demon and seal it into our children." Minato confessed quickly and in a heavy voice. "I cannot ask another parent to sacrifice their child if I cannot do it to my own. How I'll split it, I haven't decided, but I'll figure it out. Don't you worry," he said in a reassuring tone, but Kushina started crying. "You're going to use that jutsu, aren't you?" she asked him in sobs. Minato looked down solemnly. "There is no other way. But, at least, I can rest happy that they will have you watching over them," he admitted, and she nodded. She hugged her children tightly to her chest and cried as Minato put on his cloak, created 4 shadow clones who teleported to a clearing outside the village, and he himself teleported to the top of the Hokage monument only to see the Kyuubi destroying the better half of his village in a crazed rampage. Minato activated his Sharingan and flared his chakra to turn the Kyuubi attention towards him. He watched, his Sharingan flaring, as the Kyuubi started gathering chakra near his mouth and condensed it into a sphere before launching it towards him. Minato knew instinctively that should he let that attack hit, then everything and everyone near the mountain will be destroyed as well. That was not an outcome he as Hokage was willing to take place. Not as long as he was still breathing. Minato went through several hand seals, and put his hands forward. Kanji spread in the air as it started absorbing the Bijidama, and teleported it outside the village. The villagers cheered seeing their Hokage take control of the battle. Through the hoots and cheers, Minato felt his instincts screaming danger as he felt a presence behind him. Twisting around, he sawed his arm around and pierced a kunai at the masked man's head, but was stunned when it phased right through his head and the enemy grabbed his wrist in an iron bind. The masked man spoke once more, in a serious tone this time, completely different from his childish tone before. "It's over," he stated dryly. Minato smirked, exploding, and took the masked man by complete surprise. The invader cradled his burnt body, and seethed at being fooled by a mere substitution. Moreover, he had taken quite a bit of damage from that unexpectedly effective attack. Minato teleported to a rooftop nearby the Biju, and bit his thumb. He went through a chain of hand seals and slammed his palm on the ground. Ninja art, summoning jutsu, food cart destroyer. The whole ground rumbled as Gamabunta appeared on top of the Kyubi, and slammed his butt over his head. The Bijidama he was preparing, disappearing from the abrupt distraction. Minato, why the hell did you summon? Oi! Is that the Kyubi I'm sitting on? Gamabunta yelled frantically just as Minato hopped on top of his head, and started gathering his own chakra. Bunta, just hold down the Kyubi for a moment. I will subdue it, and seal it into my children. He said, and Gamabunta slammed his back over Kyubi who tried to roar in defiance. Stand down you stupid mutt. Minato, do you really think it wise to seal it into your own children? You know what kind of lives Jinchuriki lead, are you sure about this? He asked, and Minato had a solemn look on his face. There is no other way. He sighed. Besides, Kushina will take care of them. The only regret I have is that I won't be able to make my son into the shinobi I want him to be with my own hands, and watch my daughters grow up into the fine women I know they'll be. He admitted, and Gamabunta nodded with a sad smile. Minato finished gathering his chakra and teleported them outside the village in the clearing where his clones had already set up a barrier. Minato, I won't be able to hold it down for long. Summon Pa and Ma for help. Yelled Gamabunta. Minato nodded, bit his thumb and started going through hand seals before slamming his palm on the ground. Ninja art, summoning jutsu. Two small, but very ancient-looking toads puffed into existence. Minato-chan. What is going on here? Why is Gamabunta sitting on the Kyubi? And why is it free? What have you called us here for? Asked Pa in a frenzy. Ma turned her gaze to Minato as both came to a knot, feeling dread coil in their hearts upon understanding the situation. Pa, Ma, I am going to split the Kyubi and seal it into my children. Minato confirmed their worries. Please, I need your help. Hold it down for me while I set up the ritual. He requested desperately, and Pa and Ma nodded. They rushed to the Kyubi to hold it down using senjutsu while Minato created a shadow clone who teleported and brought his children, and Kushina along, to help stabilize and check the seal after the sealing was done. Minato went through a chain of hand seals, and summoned the ritual altar from hell while the clone kept his children on the altar. Minato went through hand seals one last time, and clapped his hands together. Forbidden secret art, dead demon consuming seal. A feeling of dread and coldness swept over the field as the Shinigami appeared behind Minato. What do you wish to seal, mortal? Questioned the Shinigami just as Hiruzen, Kakashi and Tsunade appeared outside the barrier only to helplessly witness the sealing take place. Shinigami-sama, I wish to seal the Kyubi into my children. My wish is to split it, and seal it into them. Minato wished. The Shinigami spoke up again, the children won't be able to hold half of the chakra and the soul together. Their bodies will not be able to withhold the strain the seal will cause. I must split its yin and yang chakra, and split them from its consciousness and body to seal it separately. Choose, mortal, which child will hold what? Shinigami stated monotonously. Minato mulled over it for a minute. His daughters had strong Uzumaki genes like their mother, and should be able to hold its chakra efficiently, while Naruto would most probably will inherit his Sharingan to control its consciousness, should he ever need its aid. Minato had already had his decision made. Shinigami-sama, seal the consciousness and body in my son, and the chakra in my daughters. He confirmed. The Shinigami said nothing, opting to pierce his hand through Minato's chest and sealed the chakra after splitting them into his daughters, while he sealed the consciousness and body into his son. Minato added a 4-symbol seal on Narumi and Mito, while he added an 8-trigram seal onto Naruto to balance the chakra that the Kyuubi might recover over the years, and leak it into the boy's coils slowly after purifying it, all so that his chakra coils became strong enough for holding the increasing strain of the Kyuubi over the years. Minato felt the pain of his jutsu take its toll on his body, and fell down to his knees just as the Shinigami spoke one final time before he claimed his payment. You have 15 minutes to do your last deeds in this realm for your honorable sacrifice. See and do what you want in these last moments before I claim your soul, and take you to the afterlife. Forever. The Shinigami stated, and Minato nodded gratefully. The shadow clones around him dispersed, and the barrier fell, making everyone gather around him. Minato, what have you done? Hiruzen cried. Tsunade, treat him. He needs it, now. He shouted, seeing his successor's condition. Kushina was crying heavily on the sidelines when Minato stopped Tsunade from treating him. The buxom blonde tried to protest, but he cut her off. It's of no use, Tsunade. Minato admitted softly. The Shinigami has given me 15 minutes for my last moments to be with you. Please, it's useless. As for the sealing, the children were not strong enough to hold all of the Kyuubi's chakra. So, I split its chakra into yin and yang and sealed it in my daughters for their strong Uzumaki genes, and its consciousness and body rests in my son. He said, looking at Hiruzen for the last part. Everyone looked on in sadness at the sacrifice Minato had made for the village, all of them unable to do anything to help him. Kushina stopped crying for a moment, and hugged him, sobbing thickly in his chest. Kushi-chan. Minato whispered, softly stroking her hair. Please go, and check if the seals have stabilized or not. See if the children are alright or not. I won't be able to rest in peace if my children had to suffer because I made a mistake in sealing. He said with a wince, and she got up hurriedly with nod to the children at the altar. He smiled as he saw her kiss and check over his daughters. At least they will have the love of their mother. But Minato's eyes turned icy and calculative when he saw a flicker of emotions pass through Kushina's eyes as she gazed at Naruto with utter hatred and disdain in her eyes while she checked on his seal. Suspicions and scenarios started playing in Minato's mind on seeing this, and he decided to take countermeasures, just in case, and so, Minato turned to Hiruzen with his veteran shinobi eyes. Hiruzen instantly came near him seeing that look, and listened to him carefully. Sarutobi, get me 3 blank scrolls, and a brush and some ink. Minato whispered. Hiruzen nodded, giving orders to the ANBU through secret hand signs, who brought him the required items in a second, and Hiruzen handed it to Minato. Minato started writing stroke upon stroke at a fast pace, and sealed the 2 scrolls with the Namake's blood seal. Much to Hiruzen's surprise, he added only Naruto's blood and chakra signature to them and sealed the last one with Hiruzen's blood just as he decided to leave the third with his last instructions. Hiruzen, I have to tell you something important. And I only trust you with this, Minato whispered, pressing the scrolls on Sarutobi's chest. Hiruzen nodded wordlessly, hearing the gravity of his voice. The 2 scrolls with the Namake's seals are my will and a letter to Naruto, both of which you shall give him at the time of his graduation. The entire Namake's fortune shall be sealed until the time he graduates from the academy and has enough experience and maturity to claim them as his, and his alone. I trust your judgment with its timing. The scroll with your blood seal is a letter that you must only open if Kushina ever decides to harm, or abandon Naruto. Under no circumstances are you to let anything happen to him. Have him seen as the hero of the village he is. Naruto shall be named the Namake's clan heir due to his strong Namake's genes, while Narumi and Mito will inherit the Uzumaki fortune. I trust you to take care of Naruto if my suspicions come true. Can't I, Sarutobi? Hiruzen clasped his shaking hands and nodded tearfully. And reverse summon Pa and Ma at the time you reveal his heritage. He must have the toad contract I have left them, there will be some instructions with them too. Minato coughed thickly while Hiruzen looked confused and stunned. But Minato, Kushina would never do such a thing. Why are you? He stopped protesting just as Minato asked him in a cold voice. Do I have your word, Hiruzen Sarutobi? Minato asked coldly, and Hiruzen looked at him with determined eyes and nodded. Minato didn't want to believe it too, but he wasn't going to leave the fate of his child helpless if his fears did in fact come true. Yes, you have it. Naruto will be taken care of like a prince and will get the possessions you have left if your fears do in fact come true. I give you my word. Hiruzen promised. Minato smiled, nodding. He coughed up even more blood, and seeing the stains on his hands he realized he didn't have much time left. Hiruzen, bring me my children. I want to see them, I want to hold them one last time. Minato whispered. Hiruzen went and brought him his children and Kushina along with him as he handed him the children while Minato looked at them lovingly. Live your lives as you want. Minato kissed their cheeks. You are all special. Don't let anyone let you tell otherwise. You might face some difficulties in your lives, but never falter. And know that I am always watching over you, and your daddy loves you three with all his heart. Minato sniffled, handing them back to Hiruzen, who took them carefully in his arms. Minato, you can hold them some more. Hiruzen trailed off as he saw Minato's eyes drop close and his head drop. A smile was plastered on Minato's face and some final tears rolled down his cheeks. Kushina fainted from exhaustion and shock while everyone dropped their heads in respect at the man's sacrifice, as the strongest of all the Hokages left this world. Don't worry, my friend. Hiruzen whispered. I'll honor every wish of yours, and look after Naruto as if he was my own child. He mourned. Naruto cried, and Hiruzen tried to calm him down with a rock of his arms. After a few moments, Naruto fell asleep as Hiruzen took the children to the hospital along with their mother. Time skipped 2 hours. Konoha Hospital. Hiruzen was sitting in the hospital room after having his wounds treated, and was waiting for Kushina to wake up while he took care of her children in the meantime. He had postponed the council meeting for the time being. The council members had protested, but had shut up and left happily after he had told them that he would retake his position as Hokage. Well, everyone except Danzo was happy, but that had been pretty obvious for Hiruzen from the start. Tsunade had left the village after Minato's death, saying she was going to live at the Senju property in the fire capital along with Shizune, as she couldn't live in the village after everyone she trusted had already died in this cursed village. She didn't want to see any more deaths. She had even left him the Shodame's necklace, saying it was cursed as Minato was the last person she had given it to and he too had died. She had actually thrown it in the trash, but Hiruzen had kept his sensei's legacy for someone who was worthy enough. Suddenly, Kushina's eyes fluttered open as Hiruzen rushed to her side. Sarutobi, where is Minato? Kushina asked solemnly, and Hiruzen eyed her sadly. Minato is gone, Kushina. Hiruzen said mournfully. He left us a few moments after you fainted. He admitted, and silent tears streamed down Kushina's eyes. Where are my children, Hiruzen? She asked. Hiruzen stood up, and went to the crib. Picking up the daughters, he handed them to her. Kushina smiled and cooed at them while Hiruzen went back to go fetch Naruto to hand him over to his mother. But Hiruzen's worst fears came true when Kushina slapped his hand away just as he tried handing Naruto over to her. What's the matter, Kushina? Hiruzen asked dreadfully. Don't you want to hold your son? He asked in confusion. Kushina looked at Naruto in utter contempt. Don't call that demon my son, Sarutobi. She spat venomously, making Hiruzen's eyes go wide. That thing took my husband away from me. Don't you dare call him my son. He is the Kyuubi reincarnate. Those whisker marks are proof enough. Kushina sneered at the child. Hiruzen took it all in with wide eyes, before his expression turned furiously red. What the hell are you talking about, Kushina? Hiruzen snarled right back. He just has the consciousness and body of the Kyuubi sealed inside of him. He is not the Kyuubi. Have you gone insane? You are a seal master yourself, and were a Jinchuriki merely a few hours ago. What's the matter with you? He asked furiously while Kushina returned his look full force. I told you, I don't have anything to do with that demonic child. He was dead to me as soon as Minato sealed the monster's soul in him. Two souls, one of an infant and one of a demon coexisting, you make laugh. As far as I am concerned, I only have 2 daughters. She spat with a venom-laced voice. Kushina, please see reason. Hiruzen pleaded. You have been blinded by the loss and pain of Minato. Please. See him. He is an innocent child in need of a mother. Nothing more. He pleaded in it desperately, trying to hand Naruto over to her, but Kushina tried to slap his hands again before Hiruzen retracted his arms defensively. Do not bring him close to me, Sarutobi, or I swear will finish what I started and kill him to avenge Minato's death. Kushina said in a promising tone with such hatred that Sarutobi knew she meant it and clutched the peaceful child to his chest protectively. I don't believe you, Kushina. You have fallen so low, Hiruzen whispered solemnly. Very well then. I shall take care of the boy as my own. He admitted in a steely voice to Kushina, who merely huffed and turned back to her daughters. I will go reside in the fire capital where the Uzumaki property is situated, under the protection of the daimyos. Kushina's words took Hiruzen by surprise. I'll raise my daughters over there and will come back during the time of their graduation, after I am satisfied with their training. She promised, and Hiruzen nodded wordlessly. Minato, you truly were a genius in every sense of the word. I never believed Kushina could do such a thing to her own son until now. But you saw right through her, even in the face of death, and took precautions. Don't worry, old friend, I'll protect Naruto from every danger, whether it be from outside the village or the inside. I'll honor your every wish and give him his inheritance after he is ready and protect him until then. Hiruzen thought in his mind. I shall take some scrolls and things from the Namikaze compounds too before I leave. Kushina broke his train of thoughts. And know that I disown him from both the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans. She said as Hiruzen hardened his eyes and spoke in an even tone. I'm sorry, Kushina. But Minato has left specific instructions with me in case something like this happened after his death. He declared Naruto as his clan heir in his dying moments and sealed off the Namikaze fortune until Naruto is ready to claim it. Until that time comes, no one shall touch a speck of grass on the Namikaze family fortune or their scrolls. He had already imagined this scenario even in the face of death and took necessary steps before he passed on. Minato has left me with specific instructions that you may do whatever you wish with the Uzumaki fortune, but the fortune of the Namikaze is sealed until the time I deem Naruto ready to claim it. Hiruzen said coldly. Kushina's eyes widened hearing this. Minato had sealed off everything from her. And named it all to that thing. Preposterous. You can't do that to me. Kushina protested. I'm his wife. That fortune is mine, and our daughters. Minato would never do such a thing to me. The Namikaze fortune belongs to me and my daughters alone, not to that thing. She spat in utter contempt. That thing, as you so call it, is the last child to inherit the strong Namikaze traits, and Minato has named him his heir in his last moments. You do what you want with the Uzumaki fortune, but you will have no say in the Namikaze clan affairs from now on. I am the legal guardian to it until Naruto claims it. Now, I'll take my leave. I have a council meeting to attend to. You can leave the village anytime you wish. The sooner the better. Hiruzen said as left her in the room and stomped his way out. Hokage Tower *. Council Chambers *. Hiruzen walked into the sacred chambers to see all the clan heads already sitting on the right side and the civilian council to the left. The elders sat directly in front of his seat. He took his seat, with a softly snoring Naruto sleeping peacefully in his arms. 2 Anbu stood guard behind him. Hiruzen brushed his whisker marks just as Naruto snuggled in his chest, making Hiruzen smile. Hamura cleared his throat. Hiruzen, all of us would like to know what became of the Kyuubi. He asked, the thought on everyone's mind, and everyone looked at him expectantly. The Kyuubi has been defeated, and the threat has passed. Minato used a forbidden jutsu to split, and seal the Kyuubi. Hiruzen said as everyone sighed in relief, but Shikaku spoke up. Hokage-sama, Shikaku cut him off. You said he split, and sealed the Kyuubi. What did he seal it into? He questioned. Everyone looked at Hiruzen while he cursed under his breath. Damn those Naras and their intelligence. I can't reveal Naruto's heritage to them. He would already have enough to deal with from external enemies after I reveal to them the truth of his burden. If his heritage is known too, then we might have to deal with many assassins and kidnappers from the inside. Iwa and Kumo might even wish to abduct or eliminate the last, true Namikaze heir. I'll keep it to myself until I reveal it Naruto. Hiruzen decided inwardly. I'll just say Minato sealed it in his daughters, and that Naruto is an orphan with no ties to his parents. So many people died tonight, no one will ever suspect a thing. But I'll have him seen as the hero he is, Minato. He thought with a smile. Well, Minato split the Kyuubi into 3 parts. He sealed the yin and yang part of its chakra into his newborn twin daughters Narumi and Mito, seeing that they had their mother's strong Uzumaki genes, and had a good chance at controlling it. But he had to seal its body and soul into a separate entity, for which he chose young Naruto. His parents died tonight during the attack, and Minato made it his last wish for Naruto to be seen as a hero, and I have full faith in his abilities in his sealing, and so should you. He spoke pointedly. But that was all he said before all hell broke loose from the civilian part of the council. They shouted for the demon to be killed, and their families be avenged. Hiruzen purposefully left out the part that the Kyuubi will gain back its chakra over time and that Naruto will become the true Jinchuriki of the 9 tails after some years as per what Minato had told him about the mechanics of his seal in his last moments. He didn't want Danzo to be too interested in Naruto, and try and turn him into a weapon, as Minato had once feared. Hiruzen wanted to keep his burden a secret, but he knew if it came out later then it might even cause a civil war as everyone would be after Naruto's head. He suddenly let out his ki and every last one of them shut up. Naruto whimpered in his sleep, making Hiruzen tone it down a bit, and rocked him left and right before Naruto fell into his deep slumber again. If you fools kill Naruto, then the Kyuubi will be free. And then what? It will regain his chakra in a few years, and return to finish what it started. And this time, we will not have Minato to stop it. Hiruzen snapped, and the civilian council fell silent while the clan heads nodded tiredly, knowing full well that he was right. Hiruzen, where are the Jinchuriki with the chakra of the 9 tails? Danzo wondered as expected. I suggest that you let me take over their training and upbringing. I'll help them control their emotions better, and make them absolutely loyal to the village. He suggested calmly as suddenly Mabuki Haruno screeched, and everyone in the room winced. Yes, where are the princesses of the Uzumaki clan? She shrieked. They are the heroes of the village. I demand to know of their condition. She asked with a screech. Kushina will take them to the Uzumaki property in the fire capital. Hiruzen admitted bitterly. So as to keep them safe there under the protection of the daimyo. She will return after she has them trained well enough for them when the time of their genin exams is upon us. Hiruzen told her sourly. Danzo stood up, practically outraged. You can't allow that, Hiruzen. The Jinchuriki must stay close to the village, and the Hokage. They should be trained properly. We need to show our strength to the other villages in this moment of weakness. Also, I can train them to be strong and loyal to the village. Have her brought back this instant. He demanded, and Hiruzen sighed at the power-hungry old fool. To think he was once his friend, oh the irony. While that is true, Danzo, you yourself have clarified that we do not have the necessary forces to spare for their protection. They will be much more safe at the fire capital. Also, Kushina is best to train them, as I'm sure you know the reasons. Plus, they will return during the time of their graduation. What problem do you have with that? Hiruzen remarked offhandedly. Seeing everyone nod and agree except Mabuki, who kept screeching about keeping the princesses in the village. Danzo seethed at being outdone and losing his chance to have strong weapons under his control, but sat down in defeat. Hiruzen sighed inwardly in relief that Danzo had no interest in Naruto, seeing he had no chakra of the Kyuubi within him. He was practically useless to the man. Oh, how ironic, he thought to himself. Then they all asked what would he do about Naruto, and they said to lock him up in ANBU headquarters or send him off to a far-off island to be isolated, or some other ridiculous ideas, mostly from the civilian council, and he instantly shut them up by leaking a bit of Ki again. Thankfully, Naruto was too deep in sleep to notice it this time. Naruto will live a normal life and become a loyal shinobi of this village. Hiruzen declared with steel in his voice. I hereby declare that no one shall speak of the link between Naruto and the Kyuubi to anyone of the younger generation. This is an S-class secret, punishable by death, without trial. Hiruzen roared. Everyone fell silent seeing his furious expression. Hiruzen had to at least make sure that Naruto made some friends his age. Everyone hesitantly agreed, and talked about the damages incurred to the village, its forces, and other political matters right until they called it a night. 3 hours later, Hiruzen went back to the Hokage Tower to spend the night with young Naruto, and an aching back. He finally got in bed, and blissfully slept with little Naruto snuggling into his chest while he kept the boy tightly wrapped up in his arms. He was to be his grandson in everything but blood, Hiruzen thought to himself, and finally drifted off to sleep with a content smile. Naruto's soft snore sounded like purrs in Hiruzen's ears all through the night. Hiruzen was suffering a severe headache at the moment from doing all this paperwork throughout the night without even a wink of sleep. Last night, after the information of Naruto's secret was revealed to the village, he had been disturbed all night long by civilian after civilian telling him to either banish the demon, or kill him, until Hiruzen had reminded them of the law in effect. Every single one of them had paled, and run off when Sarutobi had plucked out a gleaming kunai and threatened to implement his law then and there. Today, Hiruzen was patiently awaiting the arrival of his student, Jiraiya, alongside Kakashi Hatake, who Hiruzen had called through his toad summons to tell him of Naruto's condition, and to see if any one of them would like to keep Naruto's custody. Speaking of Naruto, Hiruzen had just had Enko take care of him and feed him. He was glad to see that the hyperactive Kunoichi looking so good with children. Plus, she was the only one he could ever trust with Naruto's care anyways. She knew the burden of carrying a curse, and respected the fourth Hokage above all else. As of now, Naruto was sleeping peacefully. The sight made Hiruzen smile, and he told Enko that she could leave and go rest for a few hours until he called for aid again. Instead of being glum, she seemed chum at the chance of spending some more time coddling baby Naruto. Seeing Naruto snoring away in those buxom mounds of heaven, Hiruzen had been envious of the boy for reasons he'd rather not admit. After she'd left, Hiruzen had opened up the letter that Minato had left in his care to read if certain conditions were met. And sadly, all of those conditions had been met just as Minato had once feared. Dear Hiruzen, if you are reading this letter, then I'm afraid my fears have come true. As I've already told you, of the 2 scrolls that I left for Naruto, this letter is meant for you, Naruto, and the eyes of elders of the Toad clan only. I have left you as the legal guardian of the Namikaze clan until Naruto inherits it. I know, if the conditions to read this letter have been met, then sadly, Naruto will lead a very lonely life. I fear that no one will want to be tied down to taking care of Naruto, much less adopt him. That is why, I want you to admit Naruto to the best orphanage that you can find, and pay for them from the Namikaze family account if need be. Tell Pa and Ma to make him the next Toad summoner after you tell him of his heritage. He will need their strength to protect himself in the future, for I fear the perpetrator of tonight's incident will return for his life. Also, it's a good news that Naruto won't suffer the curse of blindness caused by Manjikyu Sharingan because of him having the healing abilities of the Namikaze and the stamina and chakra of both the Senju and Uzumaki. Do not tell Jiraiya or anyone this fact, and make sure you tell Naruto about it once he is old enough to understand his burdens, and be there to explain how his eyes work. Help him master his eyes, as they will in turn help him control Kyuubi's soul, since I fear Kushina won't be there to train him, and he will need all the power he could conjure up to protect himself from the masked Uchiha who had invaded the village tonight. The toads too will help him to control his power since they have the scrolls he will need to learn his powers. I do not want Jiraiya to adopt him because he will make up a silly argument on how Naruto is the child of the prophecy. Please have him raised as a child and not a tool, Sarutobi. I know he will wish to do so with Narumi and Mito as well, and I don't want Naruto to be burdened with such things at such young an age, and live a childhood that I could not. Try to keep my daughters away from the prophecy too, if you could. I want my children to have a normal childhood, and to have their innocence kept intact for as long as you possibly could. Protect him, if nothing else, Hiruzen, as a last favor to this dying father and friend. I leave my legacy in your hands, old friend. Hiruzen put down the letter, and took off his glasses. He clenched his clouded eyes shut, and held back his tears. He sealed the draft back into the scroll until the time came for Naruto to open it once more. For now though, Sarutobi walked over to Naruto's crib and smiled as he brushed his fingers on the baby boy's whiskers. Naruto purred in delight, making Hiruzen chuckle softly. It seemed as if they were quite sensitive. Suddenly, the window slid open, and Kakashi and Jiraiya walked in. I was waiting for you too, Hiruzen said, unimpressed. Come on in, he motioned them in. Both hopped in, and stood in front of the table. Hiruzen lit his pipe, and gazed out the window. So you retook the seat, Sarutobi-sensei. The kid left his hat way too early. Jiraiya whispered mournfully. Hiruzen nodded in agreement, that he did, he agreed, still looking out the window. Sighing, Jiraiya, Hiruzen started. Minato has left a great burden upon my shoulders, a burden which Kushina does not wish to see reason to. He admitted, and Jiraiya looked at him confused. Hiruzen said nothing to elaborate, and pointed towards the crib where the soft snores of a baby resonated from. Both Kakashi and Jiraiya walked over to the crib, and couldn't help but gasp in shock. Sensei, Jiraiya gulped. Is this his son? Jiraiya stuttered. Hiruzen nodded in affirmative. Why is he here then? Jiraiya thundered. I thought Kushina gave birth to 2 daughters, not a son as well. She told me as such when I sent her a summon last night. But she told me that she was leaving today at dawn for the fire capital. If he is, in fact, her son, then why is he here? Jiraiya naturally had to ask. Hiruzen smiled sadly, and continued on gazing out the window. She blames him for the death of Minato, Jiraiya. Hiruzen didn't mince his words. She looks at like him as if he is the Kyuubi reborn. Kushina is looking for someone to blame and vent, and has sadly chosen little Naruto as her culprit. Last night, she disowned him, and even threatened to kill him. Now, Jiraiya, I wish to ask of you, will you adopt Naruto? Hiruzen dropped the bomb. I know that you have a spy network to manage, but we can set up a timetable for it. I can have someone I trust help you with little Naruto. So what do you say, Jiraiya? Will you accept him? Hiruzen asked hopefully. He honestly thought without a doubt that Jiraiya would accept the boy willingly to honor his apprentice's last wishes. I'm sorry, sensei. Jiraiya's apology formed a pit of ice in Hiruzen's stomach. The village needs my spy network more than ever now, and I am not exactly father material, you know. I like to travel, do research, and write my books. Plus, the great Toad Sage has given a new prophecy, Pa and Ma told me that just last night. It says, the powerful sapling born from 2 strong leaves shall lead the world to peace, and its enemies shall fear the look of his red eyes as he gazes upon them to protect what is precious to him, and I know for a fact that it has to be either Narumi, or Mito. They fit the description perfectly. And they will even have red eyes once they channel the fox's chakra, just like Kushina did. I'll have to put all my time into nurturing them, so being with Naruto will be difficult, you know. Jiraiya apologized sincerely. I hope you understand, sensei. The future of the world takes priority over the life of a single child, you of all people must understand. Jiraiya tried to make him see reason. Hiruzen didn't even bother turning around to face him as his heart broke in 2 at hearing his students' admissions. Minato, you really did see through all of their hearts beforehand, didn't you? Even I didn't know my own student's nature, and yet, you still saw right through him. Hiruzen thought sadly. I see was all Hiruzen could say at the moment. Jiraiya was happy that his sensei was understanding his reasons. After all, the world did prioritize over Naruto, even though he did not like doing it. What will you do then, Kakashi? Hiruzen switched his words to the Jonin monotonously. Lord Third, Kakashi bowed his head. I want to return to the duties of the ANBU. I have to get over my grief of losing yet another person precious to me. Naruto looks too much like Sensei, and I won't have the time to look after him with my missions. But I promise, I'll watch him over him from the shadows, and even become his Jonin Sensei when he grows older. He promised. That's quite a ways away for now, Kakashi. Hiruzen remarked pointedly. Kakashi nodded, knowing full well what the man was trying to imply, that it is, sir. To be honest, after everything he'd heard, Hiruzen wasn't even surprised anymore. I understand, Hiruzen waved his hand dismissively. Both of you are dismissed. He dismissed them. I think you've heard everything. Hiruzen questioned seemingly no one in particular. Two small toads came out of the shadows of the wall, tapping their canes to show their displeasure over the matter. Yes, we did. Pa clipped, annoyed. I'll admit, I never expected Jiraiya boy to leave Naruto-chan just for our prophecy, and his disgusting habits. He has fallen in respect of the Toad's great elders. We came up to check on young Naruto-chan, but I never imagined that Kushina-chan would forsake her own child, even if it is grief that has clouded her eyes. Ma admitted somberly. Neither did I, Hiruzen sighed. The Leaf Village too has disrespected Minato-chan's wish for Naruto-chan to be seen as a hero. Pa said with steel in his voice. The leaf has fallen from the grace and honor it once used to hold, back in the days when Hashirama-chan and Tobirama-chan used to guide its reins. Ma spat. Hiruzen smiled, thinking of those times, and knowing that they were right. This really wasn't the same village anymore, its founders would have been ashamed of what their vision became in wake of their deaths. What do you wish to do now? Hiruzen asked the two toads. They looked at each other, and nodded. We shall remove Jiraiya-chan from the Toad summoning contract, effective immediately. Pa tapped his cane decisively. He has fallen from the ways of our clan. We will make Naruto-chan our new summoner, and we shall pledge our loyalty to him and only him, not to the leaf. Bunta also said that he was excited to fight alongside the child, once he was older that is, and wanted to become his familiar. He wishes to introduce him to his sons too, Gamakichi, and Gamatatsu. We shall be loyal to the leaf so long as Naruto-chan intends to protect it, and no more. He declared his loyalties to the stunned Hokage. But the toads have been allies of the leaf for, Hiruzen tried to protest. Ma interjected, the great toad sage believes him to be the child of prophecy, and we do too. She added, Minato-chan entrusted us the key to his heir's seal, and asked us to give it to Naruto-chan whenever you deemed him ready. There are many things that Minato-chan left at Empty Mayaboku for him to inherit. We shall give it to the boy after he becomes aware of his heritage. She said in an iron voice. Pa and Hiruzen nodded in agreement to her words, but Hiruzen couldn't help but worry a little. The leaf had taken yet another severe loss in power by almost losing the only powerful battle summoning contract left in the village, if not for Naruto. The snake contract was with Orochimaru, with Anko only having a partial contract to them. And the slugs were loyal to the Senju and the Uzumaki only, and Hiruzen could only wonder how long the years of Shikatsu Forest would remain oblivious to this truth. Kushina and Tsunade were the only summoners left, and they too were not active shinobi of the village. Hiruzen wondered if taking the seat had indeed been the right thing to do with all the power vacuums left in wake of Minato's death. Hiruzen looked at little Naruto with a smile, knowing full well the boy would be a thorn in his backside, and cause him a hell of a lot of paperwork when he grew up. He was already really important to the village as the last of the Namikes, and the only summoner to the legendary Toad clan now as Jiraiya had been expelled from the contract. He thought about his student's reaction when he realized that his contract, on which he was so heavily reliant, was nullified. He watched silently as Pa and Ma walked up to Naruto's crib, and Pa picked him up. Naruto woke up from his sleep with a cute yawn, and gazed at the weird toad with wide, droopy eyes as he tilted his head to the side. Pa held him in front of his face, both intently gazing into each other's eyes. "Well, Naruto-chan," he settled him a bit more snugly in his arms, "would you like to be the next toad summoner?" Pa asked him with a smile. Naruto laughed with a clap, thinking it was funny, and hugged him. All of them chuckled in unison. "I think that's a yes, isn't it, Sarutobi?" said Ma, and Pa nodded. "What say you, Sarutobi?" Pa wondered. Hiruzen smiled, "I think yes as well." Ma walked up to Naruto just as Pa finished slicing Naruto's little thumb a little, forcing it to bleed, and started writing his name, Naruto Namikaze, on the summoning scroll. He slapped a hand print over his scroll, and roughly smeared the print on the paper to make sure it was done right. Naruto sniffed a little from getting his thumb cut, and, as if on cue, Ma bashed Pa on his head while he yelled an "Oi!" indignantly. "You idiot!" she thundered. "You cut too deep. Look, you made him cry." She roared when Naruto sniffed again, and Ma plucked him up from the ground, and rocked and cooed him. "Ah, Naruto-chan is a brave boy. Isn't he, isn't he?" She cooed, and the boy giggled, momentarily forgetting his pain while his thumb healed almost instantly. Hiruzen was wide-eyed at the speed with which it healed, as was Pa. It seemed that the Kyuubi gave him a healing factor. Pa had come to the same conclusion as Hiruzen had, and was equally shocked as well. He wished to ask what will become of little Naruto and who will look after him from here on out, however. "What are you going to do about young Naruto's nurturing, Sarutobi?" Pa wondered. "Where will he live?" Hiruzen sighed, and plopped down on his chair, feeling well beyond his years. "I want to keep him with me, yes. But I have way too many duties now." Seeing their disapproving look. "And even if I did want to keep him, the council would raise hell over it. They decided last night that none of the clans could adopt him in fear of them releasing the Kyuubi to gain power, and none of the civilians will adopt him for obvious reasons. So, that leaves only the orphanage." Hiruzen added to save himself some face. "What of his accommodations?" Ma asked. "I will try and find him the best orphanage there is, and even pay them some extra money to keep him safe and well treated. I'll have Kakashi and my other ANBU check up on him from time to time. I made a law for people not to tell the younger generation of his burden, so that he may be able to make friends. I'll visit him as often as I could, but it will be difficult to take out any more time. After he is 6, I'll have him entered into the academy, after which he'll graduate at the recommended age of 12. That is what I have planned for now. His father made sure he would have the money to live well, and I'll give it to him monthly as a stipend until he claims his fortune in order to keep his identity under tight wraps." Hiruzen explained, and Pa and Ma nodded, satisfied. "We too will check up on him regularly," they told Sarutobi. "But we shall not reveal ourselves to him until the time is opportune. I wish you luck, Sarutobi, and we trust that you'll take care of our summoner," they asked him, and Hiruzen smiled. "I'll do what I can," Hiruzen promised. Pa nodded, and tapped his cane as both he and Ma left in a puff of smoke. Hiruzen began checking through the files and various records of the orphanages in the village to try and find one with the best comforts for him to offer, but that issue was only secondary for now. Hiruzen needed to find a place where Naruto would be accepted, fully. He began going through file after file, rummaging through them, and eventually finding none that would fit his requirements completely. Sarutobi groaned. This was going to be a long day. Time skipped 4 years, asterisk. It was the 10th of October, the day of the Kyuubi festival, and the whole village was filled with decorations and the morale was running his. In the streets a small blonde-haired boy with light blue eyes and whisker marks on his face was walking, taking in of the sights the festival had to offer. The boy is our hero Naruto. Naruto was running out the streets in joy. He came up to several stalls, played games, and ate several delicious things. The merchants were from different villages, so they didn't throw him out, or even talk to him rudely for that matter. Many of the villagers were glaring coldly at him, but the boy was too happy to notice. He was walking through the crowd when he was suddenly pushed into an alley, and Naruto looked up to see three men with strange white eyes looking at him, probably blind, while Naruto got up and dusted himself off. "Can I help you, mister?" he asked him politely, though the man grew furious. "Yes. You can die for me, demon," he yelled. They ran towards the blonde with a kunai, and Naruto took off in fright. They chased him as he weaved, ducked and ran through alleys, and then saw a fence in front of him. He jumped on a wooden box, then on a big closed dumpster, and then over the fence. Naruto turned to see the men and how far they were, but watched in horror when they threw a slew of 10 kunai knives at him, and Naruto felt fear clutch his chest. How was he supposed to dodge them mid-air? Naruto's heart rate accelerated, blood pressure increased, and he unconsciously channeled a huge pulse chakra to the veins behind his eyes. As soon as his eyes were flooded with enough chakra, the world around him grew sharper. He could even make out the wings of insects flying in the air, and saw that the kunai knives that were too fast for him to decipher, now appeared to be moving towards him in slow motion. Confused, Naruto grabbed onto one of them in mid-air, and started deflecting the rest of them. He managed to deflect 7 of them, but wasn't able to finish the last 2 even though he could argue that they were a lot slower than he was, one of which lodged itself in his right shoulder, the other in his left thigh. Naruto howled in pain, and fell down. He crawled back into the corner of the dead end to the alley and brought his knees to his chest defensively. He curled up into a ball, knowing he couldn't escape now. Naruto whimpered, and waited for the pain to come just as they started kicking his small body, and his cries for help were drowned in the loud music adorning the festival behind this hell. "Did you see his eyes?" one of them exclaimed as he launched another kick. "Yes, seems as if he has the Sharingan." "Is he an Uchiha?" the other one asked. "No one has activated the Sharingan at so young an age. The demon must have stolen them from a corpse. Serves him right that we are here to witness its true colors," the third one devised, and they started kicking him even more viciously. Naruto could do nothing but take it all. It hurt so much, but why were they hitting him? He wasn't a demon, was he? His mind closed in on itself as he numbed out from the pain, and fell unconscious. But they continued beating him, not bothered by his poor state in the slightest. They wanted to kill him slowly, and woefully become the silent heroes of the village that avenged their savior on the night of his noble sacrifice. "Now then, let's finish this," said the first man, and was about to stab Naruto in the head before he was stopped by a wave of killer intent. Turning around, they saw an Anbu wearing a weasel mask standing behind them. From the mask a fully developed Sharingan could be seen, and all 3 tomos were spinning dangerously at the villagers. "What is going on here?" asked the Anbu. "Well, you see, Anbu said we were finishing what the Yondaime started. You should take the last hit as he stole your clan's Sharingan," said another villager. As soon as he said that, the Anbu weaved through hand seals at lightning pace and shouted fire-style great fireball jutsu. A large fireball escaped his lips and completely engulfed the villagers, killing them at the spot. The Anbu then rushed to Naruto, who was beginning to wake up. Looking up, he saw the Anbu's Sharingan and said, "You got very cool eyes, mister." The Anbu looked at Naruto and gasped. A boy no older than 4 years old had activated the Sharingan. He is the youngest person ever to awaken the dojutsu. Naruto then turned to look at the Anbu with fearful eyes and said, "Are you going to hit me as well? If so, please kill me. That way I can go to my daddy and live with him." As he said that, he fell unconscious again, this time barely holding on to his life. The Anbu immediately picked him up and rushed to the hospital. Upon reaching the hospital, he shouted, "Nurse, it's an emergency." A nurse quickly rushed but stopped when she saw who the Anbu was holding and sneered. "Take that thing away, we don't treat the likes of him." As soon as she said that, a wave of intense killer intent filled the whole hospital, causing all of the staff members to hold a collective breath. The Anbu then said, "I am going to ask you once more, treat him before I kill you and your families." As soon as he said that, an indignant yell came, "You can't do that." "Oh, but I can." According to the law of the third Hokage, any prejudice against Naruto, any mention of the word demon in public will be executed without trial. "Now would you want that?" the Anbu calmly asked. The staff then shook their heads and took Naruto to an operation theater. The ANBU stopped releasing his killer intent and said, "Nico, go get Inu Taicho and inform of what happened to the Hokage." Another ANBU with a cat mask nodded before disappearing into the shadows. A few minutes the Hokage and another ANBU with silver hair and a dog mask rushed to where the ANBU was standing and said, "Weasel, report." "Hi Hokage-sama. I was taking my normal perimeter check when I saw that Naruto-kun was being beaten senseless by a mob of villagers. I immediately asked them what was going on, to which they said, and I quote, 'We are finishing what the Yondaime started by killing the demon.' I immediately set a giant fireball jutsu on them, killing all of them. I then went up to Naruto-kun and brought him here, where first he was refused treatment, but after a little convincing they began to treat him. After that I sent word for you and Inu Taicho to come here," said Weasel. "Anything else happened?" asked the Inu ANBU. Weasel sighed and motioned both his captain and the Hokage to come closer before whispering in a very low voice, "It seems that he has activated the Sharingan. I saw it clearly. He had the Sharingan with one tomo in each of his eyes." Weasel then hardened his gaze and said, "What exactly is happening, Hokage-sama?" Hiruzen sighed before saying, "He is the Yondaime's son. Be sure to not tell this piece of information to anyone. It also includes the fact about his Sharingan. If I hear you telling it to anyone, I will kill you. This is an SS-ranked secret. Do I make myself clear?" "Hi Hokage-sama," said Weasel as the door to Operation Threader finally opened and a doctor walked out with a big frown plastered on his face. "How is he, doctor?" asked Hiruzen. "He is stable. We prevented him from getting any permanent damage. Hus Tenant is also healing him quicker than most. Though I question as to why some of the villagers would beat up a kid so young so badly," replied the doctor. "Can I see him?" asked Hiruzen. "That you may. He should be up in a couple of hours," replied the doctor as he turned and left the three. "I want both of you to watch the boy in the room. I'm going to the office to set some shadow clones. I will be back in 1.5 hours," said Hiruzen to both the ANBU, who wordlessly nodded and disappeared into the shadows. 2 hours later, hospital room, *. Naruto's eyes fluttered open and he sat up and yawned before looking to the side and spotting one Hiruzen Sarutobi looking at him with worry and sadness. "How are you feeling, my boy? Does it hurt anywhere?" asked Sarutobi as he moved and sat beside Naruto. "I am feeling fine, old man, just a little sore. By the way, can you tell me why do the villagers hate me so much?" asked Naruto. "I do not know, Naruto," said Hiruzen. It hurt him a lot to see the blonde ball of sunshine so quiet. It seemed as if a part of his innocence had left him completely. "Gigi, am I demon or a monster?" asked Naruto, his voice barely above a whisper. "Naruto, look at me. You are in no way a monster, you understand me? I am the Hokage, the most knowledgeable person in the village. If I say you are not a monster, then you are not a monster," said Hiruzen, to which Naruto smiled a genuine smile and said, "Thank you, old man. Could you please ask Mr. ANBU to come out? I want to thank him for rescuing me," said Naruto as he looked down shyly. "Naruto, how do you know he is here?" asked Sarutobi with a shocked expression. "I don't really know, I just felt him here. And I recognized his presence from back when he saved me," said Naruto with a shrug. "Unbelievable, he is a natural-born censor. He really is your son, Minato," thought Sarutobi. "You can come out, Weasel," said Hiruzen. The masked ANBU came out and said, "Hello, Naruto-kun. Thank you for helping me, ANBU-sen, you are the best after Gigi," said Naruto. The Weasel ANBU only nodded his head before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Old man, during that beating for a few moments I noticed things slowing down. Like I could see their movements as if it was moving in slow motion," asked Naruto with cute tilt of his head to the left.